So I would say that a course like A-level psychology is good for anyone who is kind of curious about behaviour in any sense. That might be like figuring out your own behaviour a little bit, finding out a bit more about yourself. There's also quite like big questions about sort of society and like personal identity and why people do what they do, for better or worse. Sometimes it's just like everyday behaviour. Sometimes it's more like significant things like crime or like mass obedience or that sort of stuff. So yeah, anyone who's kind of got those big existential questions about themselves and kind of wants to figure out like why people make those decisions is probably a good way of thinking of it. So there's quite a broad range of topics, particularly in the first sort of part of the course, the first year of the course. The main focus of year one is what we call key themes through core studies. So it's looking at behaviour in general terms, but using a lot of quite specific examples. So we look at, for example, in the cognitive psychology topic, it's how people make decisions and how we process information, but we do that by looking at memory and by looking at attention. And each of those topics has sort of 4 key pieces of research students have to know about. Also in year one, we look at research methods, which is how psychologists get their data, like how we study people when people are unpredictable and can't always be studied scientifically. So we look at experiments and observations and self-report techniques and how we use those methods to get data about people so we can come up with big theories and big laws and principles. Then in year two, we get a little bit more specialised. So we do the applied psychology unit, which looks at things like criminal psychology, so decision making around crime and crime prevention. We look at mental health, so different views on mental health and mental illness. We look at some other topics in year two as well, trying to get students to kind of look at bigger picture applications of research. Yeah, we try and do as many practical things as we can throughout the course. So that is normally involving carrying out some sort of activity based on what we're learning in class. So when we carry out the cognitive psychology topic, for example, we're able to test out those experiments in lesson. We get students to test their memory, we test their attention spans. When we do biological psychology, we test whether they're good at resisting temptation or not. We try and do that as practically as possible when we do research methods as well. So if we learn about questionnaires, students will write a questionnaire and then go and test it out. If we do observations, students will go around college and carry out like observations around site. Then in year two, we try and get as many sort of guest speakers involved as we can. We have a team of ex-offenders come and talk to students about their experiences at prison in the criminal psychology topic. The big one that students always ask about is the sleep deprivation experiment we do at the end of year one, where we sort of apply students' research methods knowledge. So we get some students in, we have a day at college, we keep you here overnight. We do some experiments at sort of 7 p.m. and then 4 a.m. and then we sort of see how your behaviour changes over like the course of the evening. It's really fun. We get about 50 students every year take part. They volunteer. Staff take part too. So this year we had 6 or 7 staff take part in it as well. We do things like play Beat Saber on the Quest headsets that the college has. We do personality tests and memory tests, seeing if staying awake affects your mood, makes you more antisocial, affects your IQ, affects your problem-solving skills. We do things like play Bop It and Jenga, and just to see what sleep deprivation does. And then we take all the data from that and then we use it in lessons to sort of learn about research methods and data handling and sort of skills that are really important to the course, but in hopefully an interesting way, in a fun way. So the main assessment for the course, the final grade, is 1 exam per unit. So there's an exam for research methods, an exam for core studies, and an exam for applied psych. Each of those are 2 hours long, and the combined sort of score for those 3 exams is what gets a student their final grade. Obviously, within the course, you have to assess progress. So we do end of topic tests for every area in year one, which is 5 areas. Every research method we do as well has an end of topic test. And then at the end of year one, we have a big sort of end of year assessment. The same sort of pattern follows in year two as well, where every topic we do, there's some timed work, and there's a mock exam in February of year two as well. So really preparing students for that kind of end point at the end of year two. Yeah, so like a lot of maths on the psychology course is around data handling and data analysis. So when we do a practical in class, we'll get results from the group and then they have to be analysed, and a lot of it revolves around the concept of significance. Have we found a significant difference in our results? Is this difference big enough to base a solid conclusion on? So alongside that are more descriptive statistics, so mean, median, mode, things that students will be familiar with from previous studies. There's also a work around data handling and graph construction. So again, things that students will be familiar with. The big step up, I think, from level 2 qualifications is the concept of significance and inferential stats tests. So there are some that students have to know. We work through them in class by carrying out practicals and embedding it into what we do, so students aren't just kind of left to get on with it. And we try and be as assessment focused as we can with it as well, so teaching it in a way that builds the skills that you're actually going to need it for in an assessment. And I'm really big in sort of helping students to understand why we do the maths bit the way we do it. Because if you get that bit right, the rest sort of falls into place, I think. But it's mainly for around telling significant differences between participants in a piece of research.